It really is just advantage, win, 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 win down the line when you're talking about middleware and that interoperable layer between so many different stakeholders and IT systems out there.
The current supply chain is broken, and it's not scaled to fit the demands of our needs as globalization continues to take place. Over the years, we've begun to see blockchain take a role in alleviating the tensions within the industry, through things like enhanced procurements through the transparency and immutability of data in a distributed network. But it still leaves a lot of room to question how we'll connect everything in our current supply chain systems into the future of DLT. Because realistically, we're not going to just tear everything down and build new on blockchain. This is exactly the vision that Morpheus Network sees with their solution as a technology-agnostic middleware. In this discussion, I had the chance to sit down with the team at Morpheus Network and learn all about what's going on both internally and externally from their ecosystem. We shared a ton of exciting news from their collaborations with some huge names like SAP, Google, Gulftainer, and FCL, in addition to also sharing some exciting news about their Masternodes and what's going on within the ecosystem. So without any further delays, let's get right into it. Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back, it's Tokenicer, and as you guys can see, we have a couple really special guests with us today. So we've got Dan, Noam, and James. So do you guys want to just give a quick introduction? Maybe we can start with Dan, move to James, and then Noam.
Amazing. Well, Token, thank you so much for having us on today. Always excited to speak to our community or any community out there. My name is Dan Weinberger. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Morpheus Network. My background is specifically in supply chain. I'm actually a UN supply chain expert as well. I teach a masterclass on paperless trade for the UN. I'll keep it short because we have a lot to talk about today, and I'll throw it over to our guru of marketing, Mr. James Tolan.
Thank you very much for that intro, Dan. Yes, head of marketing based in the States, and happy to be on the show.
Yeah, Jeffrey, thank you so much for having us. My name is Noam Epple. I'm the other co-founder of the company based in Canada in Southern Ontario. My background is on the tech side, so I started doing web development way back in 1996 and very active in a few different areas in technology. I'm also a part-time professor at a college in Toronto teaching blockchain and related topics, and that's my short background.
Awesome. Okay, I love to hear it. And just to kind of continue on with getting started, on my channel, I've covered Morpheus Network across various platforms since I think March of 2022 now. So our community is fairly familiar with everything you guys are doing. And so with that said, how do you guys feel about transitioning to some of the things you guys have been doing recently? I know you guys have recently been accepted to Google Startup Program and also Microsoft. So some very exciting stuff to talk about just right off the bat.
Yeah, most definitely. I don't mind taking that. I'll speak a little bit about the Google for Startups Accelerator Program. Super excited to be working, obviously, the whole Google team. I got to say that, we've been a part of a couple different great accelerators, Plug and Play in the past as well. We're actually part of SAP's accelerator, like you mentioned, Microsoft as well. Google for Startups was super professional. We had a whole bunch of Google mentors right from the start, and right till today, we're working with them as well. Something that's exciting is that some of them are actually joining our board of advisors. I'll talk a little more about that in the future. And I think about the program with Google is what we're focusing on. We're doing some great work in the past with some amazing enterprises through SAP and those partnerships as well, but also just their direct reach out with the Gulftainers and the Coca-Colas and so on. But what Google gives us is this direct access to some SMEs, some small and medium enterprises that aren't using a massive ERP system like an SAP or an Oracle, right? They're using, Google programs, they're using Gmail, they're using Drive, they're using Google Sheets, and we're trying to integrate all that data, pull it into our middleware, allowing these SMEs to create shipments in 30 seconds as opposed to copying and pasting and rekeying and all these errors that we're seeing in supply chain nowadays, allowing these small, medium enterprises to leverage our platform as well. Google has been amazing in allowing us to develop on their Google Cloud platform. We've integrated single sign-on, so it's super easy to log on. You can pull your data right from Google Contacts. We have some integrations with Google Pay as well, just to pay us nice and easy. We like that as well. And yeah, it's been an amazing program. Myself and Noam actually got to go to the Google headquarters in Toronto. We gave an amazing live presentation as well. And really, the biggest stuff is still in store. We just got our verification from Google, so we have a Google verified product with Morpheus. It's called Speed.Supply, Speed Supply, 30 seconds or less setting up a shipment. So I think the name is perfect as well. So I could talk about Google all day, but really, it's more about the excitement of what we're building and allowing the small, medium enterprise to take advantage of these enterprise solutions we've given out.
Awesome. And yeah, I think it's so awesome to see you guys collaborate with all these big names. Like we've seen Google, Accenture, IBM, SAP, and the list really goes on. And not to mention that, I think you guys all started from, or maybe not all of you guys, but I'm aware Roger Crook and Dan yourself, you guys have had previous experience in the supply chain at a very high level, right? And so
Decades.
Decades, yes. Yeah. Longer than I've been alive for sure. But I'm very curious to hear how much that background from you guys played a role into inspiring Morpheus Network and kind of just what the story of it was that brought this whole vision to life.
Yeah, most definitely. A great question. I love talking about that because it's sort of the transition from my former life as a supply chain manager into what I do now with Morpheus, right? Yeah. One fateful day, Noam, who was living in Taiwan, came to Canada, visited his family, and asked me to go out for a meal. I started talking about my business and supply chain. I'm this hub between all these different companies. I'm receiving data, creating documents, shipping things off, and it's nonstop action all the time. And it's kind of, you're kind of bogged down by documentation constantly. We started talking about, what I'm happy about in the business and what I wasn't so happy about. Led us down this conversation about how come technology isn't used in the supply chain. We started digging down into it. And we started drawing it out literally on a napkin at a restaurant. How data is brought in and where technology can come into play. It lended so well to blockchain, to IoT, all the different data sources that we need from IoT and different sensors down the line, all different stakeholders, all has to be pulled into the same system. That led us down the path to what we have today, which is a robust middleware with over 150 relevant supply chain integrations, pulling in data from all around the world. 90% of all container lines have their data being pulled into our platform. We're pulling data directly from SAP's ERP. 90% of all Fortune 500 are using SAP. We can tap right into their ERP system, pull out purchase order data, automate documentation, and become that automated hub, which I was, painstakingly working at for decades before I realized the technological advances. And now we're able to discuss it with companies on a day-to-day basis. We break down the problems that they have, where they're using, so many people, an army of people in order to push ahead supply chains, and where technology can play a huge role. We found some great successes with our amazing clients, able to build solutions, being paid to build solutions as we grow. Very excited about the future, of course, but it all starts back to having those decades of pain and understanding what it takes in order to get a supply chain to work from the start. And Roger Crook, myself, Carl McDermott, Carl Wood, all these, supply chain managers who had decades and decades of experience know that pain. So now we are, excited on a day-to-day basis to bring these solutions to alleviate some of that pain. And we're bringing in some amazing people on the team as well from a technological perspective to give us the best technology. That's where Noam and all the devs come in as well. We have to put those expertise together, create these amazing solutions for our clients.
For sure, yeah. I think it's so awesome to see that so much of your team has been made up from the actual supply chain and logistics industry, just because I feel like it gives the company that much more kind of expertise and backing behind it. Like actually working the supply chain previously and knowing the bottlenecks and issues that you guys were facing each and every day and actually going out and trying to solve it yourselves, right? And I love that you guys are touching on the tech and everything because this is the part I'm hoping to hand it over to Noam. But as we were speaking about, you guys are sort of an agnostic technology where it's not just blockchain, right? But you guys can connect legacy supply chain modules, Swift payments, and all that good stuff. And so kind of touching on the agnostic side of things, because you guys are able to integrate with all these different blockchains, I'm aware there's certain public chains you guys are allowing, but also private chains such as Hyperledger Fabric, I believe, and was Quorum one of them or no?
Sure.
First, let me say I love your research you've done into our project, and you've been following us for a while. Love your research. So another great question from you. Thank you for that. So I think from day one, we've had this product strategy to be agnostic. And part of the reason is because the blockchain landscape is changing. Every week there's new chains coming out, or new research, or new exciting developments, especially around privacy and privacy and data security, like zero knowledge proofs. So from day one, we said, rather than building our own blockchain, which I think a lot of startups have done, and maybe it's not the best approach, we should integrate with the best of the best and remain agnostic, because we don't know what the landscape's going to look like in a week or a year or 5 years. So right now, our main chain is Ethereum. We operate our own side chains as well. And then we also use Polygon for our Masternodes. And then, we're fully compatible with Hyperledger and EOS and a number of others. And we're prepared in the sense that if tomorrow Ethereum disappears, and I don't think that's going to happen, but if it did, if it crashed, if there's an issue, we can very quickly pivot to another chain, such as Polygon, for example.
Yeah, for sure. I love to hear that. And honestly, like, projects that are agnostic in this space are usually what I'm looking for, for a couple of reasons. I think one of them, which you guys do very well, is integrate multiple forms of technology. So it's not just blockchain, right? But it's like ERP, cloud, etc. And I think there's this big stigma in kind of the whole crypto space that blockchain is going to replace literally every technology out there. And I'm sure we're all in agreement that's not going to be the case, right? So I think it's really important we have something like you guys that I often call you guys like the glue or the centerpiece that kind of sits in the middle and kind of make sure everything is running smoothly. So yeah, I'd love to hear that, you guys are continuing to stay true to that and, integrating all these new features in blockchain that we're continuing to always see.
Sure.
Thank you. The term we like to use is middleware, in the sense that we can connect to anything and everything. We have over 150 connections to, carriers like UPS and FedEx, to various IoT devices from leading companies like AT&T and Verizon, and even legacy systems. Like, we connect to a few very, very old legacy IBM mainframes. And we like to use the term middleware. And it also means that we don't need to compete with every new technology. If tomorrow there's a very exciting, innovative new IoT device, that doesn't necessarily compete with our existing IoT devices. Rather, we can then integrate with the new devices as well. So it allows us to remain very flexible, very agile, and incorporate new technologies quickly. And James, I think you wanted to say something as well.
I was just going to expand on that we have a very unique position in the marketplace as a middleware. And one of the biggest issues that we heard from supply chain managers, and coming from that background as well, knowing this going into the build of the project, when we listened deeply to supply chain managers and what problems they needed to solve, the overwhelming feedback that we got was that the data, being siloed as it is, from one server to one platform to another, was never consistent. They never really knew what was the truth in the data, right? What the ERP may have reported one thing, but then they're getting conflicting data down the chain, right? And so that was causing an immense amount of problems, and it took humans really just having to spend, put eyeballs on things and look at two different documents and go, I guess this one looks more real than this one, or this one looks more up to date than this one, right? And of course, that was adding an immense amount of friction to supply chain. So, with that said, then we start looking at how do we solve for that? If you create a workflow and with all of its documentations that you need from start to finish, and then you hash all that to chain, right? And we use IPFS and interplanetary filing systems. We hash that to chain, bring it back, and then have a unique identifier, in our case, a QR code. Then anybody on that chain can verify the validity and the truth. So that's creating that one immutable truth, right? And a trustless environment. Now, we never say trustless in supply chain because that scares people. They don't understand it. But in crypto, you understand what that means. You have a Christmas, you have that trusted data set, right? What we also discovered, almost haphazardly and accidentally, is that it also was thwarting piracy and counterfeiting. So that's how brand protection. Then we realized, oh my God, we created an amazing brand protection product now too. In just trying to verify the documentation in itself lends itself to our brand protection. Because now you cannot, it's very easy to counterfeit, to send a phishing email out and with a fake invoice or a fake manifest, right? And so if you've ever been to a large port, cranes pick up containers off of ships and they move them either left or right. You can spoof a manifest that says go left and put it over here on this truck. The next thing or on that boat, it's off to the Gulf Coast of Africa, while it's supposed to have been going on a ship to the port of LA, right? And all it took was just one falsified document sent through a fax or an email. And yes, they still use fax. Today, it's unfortunate, but it is true. There's some 19th century technology still in place. So, we realize that now we have a brand protection solution that we can build on, right? Based just on that, creating one immutable truth by hashing it to chain.
Yeah, that's awesome, James. Thanks for that, James and Nolan. That point about
coming on the middleware as well, Token. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to add a couple more points because James and Noam touched on some awesome stuff. It got me so excited.
Of course, yeah.
Really, what James is saying is, you mentioned as well that we're not just like, blockchain is going to replace everything. No. We're actually leveraging blockchain for what it is meant to do, to trust the data. So if a piece of data for a middleware is sitting on one stakeholder's ERP system, how does another stakeholder doesn't have visibility into that ERP know they can trust the data sitting there? If it's hashed on chain and everyone has a view on it, suddenly everyone can trust that data that's being recorded, right? So it really is using it's the best use case for blockchain and how you can trust data, because in supply chain, there's so many stakeholders that have reasons not to trust each other. There's tons of money on the line here. And if something's late or something was built improperly, there's reasons to manipulate data, which can't happen if you have a blockchain in between, right? Besides that, with our positioning and all those advantages, we also future-proof these companies. We allow them to have that ability to upgrade their ERP system down the line and type it right into our middleware as well. They can work with us and then upgrade down the line, future-proofing them. Not to mention also the ease of implementation. They can continue using their current ERP. We don't tell them, okay, there's going to be a 6-month stoppage of business because you're going to rip out your ERP and you have to train everybody. No. We're still pulling the data from their ERP. All their stakeholders, all their company employees are still using the same systems. We're just pulling the data from those systems and automating processes in between. So it really is just advantage, win down the line when you're talking about middleware and that interoperable layer between so many different stakeholders and IT systems out there.
For sure.
And by creating by creating a audit trail, insurance companies like Marsh got really excited when we showed them what we had built, because now they can trust that audit trail. All the hashes are there on chain. It takes one glance to see exactly what happened from all the data that was grabbed along the chain, right? So if it's IoT data, say it was time, temperature, pressure, say it's a fresh, say it's tomatoes coming from Israel, right? Going to the port of New York. If those tomatoes spoil somewhere at sea, well, we have data for that, right? We have IoT data that captured that because they took the time and temperature during the trip. And so when it got to LA, they opened it up. The broker files a claim. They can file a claim with Marsh because Marsh, which is one of our integrations, and with one click, you can add shipping insurance to our workflows, because we now have this immutable audit trail, right? That they love, because they can just go right immediately, go, all right, claim filed, right? They don't have to go research anything. They can trust all that data.
Yeah, for sure. I had completely forgotten that you guys had that partnership with Marsh until now, honestly.
Yeah, they're the largest insurance agent. What is it? The largest insurance underwriter in the world.
I think I remember reading about that. Yeah, I remember first researching your guys' project and reading about Marsh, but since then so much has happened with like SAP and Google. It's kind of just fell out on one side of the head, but So
We're not supposed to slow down.
Our users
We're not
use it
going to
every
slow
day.
down. Doesn't matter.
Very
Gotta
much
keep
a
up.
viable part of our integration.
just get bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah.
But since we've been talking so much about the technology and everything, of course, it's the supply chain managers and the end users that end up using the platform, right? So I thought it'd be important to kind of talk about your customers and some of the clients that are using Morpheus Network. So first off, there's a Federated Co-op. I know that us Canadians probably know the scale of how big FCL is. There's one right down the street from where I am right now, but I thought you guys could just touch up on that a little to, the scale of that. And then I also know you guys are doing some really great work with Sinasa in Argentina. So just those two to start off with. How does that sound, guys?
Sounds fantastic. I don't mind getting started, and then maybe I'll throw it over to Noam as well, because he is actually going right into the heart of the beast. He is going right to Saskatoon in a couple of weeks to be right at that war table with the entire FCL C-level team. So Federated Co-op, as you mentioned, Token, you know this as a Canadian. I know this as a Canadian as well. Even though they're not so huge in Ontario, they are the third largest food distributor in all of Canada. They other industries as well. They're huge in like oil and gas as well. They do lumber. They have a whole bunch of different divisions of the company that we're tapping into every single one of those divisions, right? It's really been an amazing trip with FCL. It's now been a few years we've been working with them. One thing I'll mention that I'm super excited about in the past few months, we actually signed a 3-year extension with FCL. So at least for the next 3 years, it's going to be longer than that. We are going to be working with them for sure. So Morpheus and FCL have this amazing relationship. Working with a corporate like FCL, they're helping us build these amazing solutions. We're learning from them as much as we're teaching them about technology and what they can do. So it really is amazing to have revenue coming in to build solutions that we can leverage with other clients as well. So listen, I'll leave it at that with FCL. I want to throw it over to Noam. He can talk a little bit about the workshop coming up and some other projects on the go.
Thank you, Dan. So Federated Co-op, we've been working with them for a few years now, and it really is a great relationship. We've done 2 workshops in Saskatoon already. These are usually 2-day workshops with multiple FCL divisions. And we have maybe 5 or 6 ongoing projects with them across multiple divisions. And it's been a great relationship, and we look forward to as Dan said, at least 3 years. But I anticipate it's going to be a very, very long relationship with them. One of the kind of core things we do with FCL is that FCL has 160 retail locations across Canada, and all their vendors need to supply FCL with documentation. Every year, there's dozens of certificates that they need to provide FCL. And so one thing we did is we created this self-serve portal so that hundreds of their vendors can log in and self-manage a lot of their documentation and SKU information. And so this has saved FCL, an incredible amount of time and effort because now the vendors can do these tasks on their own. And as part of that project, one of our integrations was with a legacy mainframe. And so that was a lot of fun as well. I think I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Okay.
I'll give you a quick comment, actually. Just, Token, as you can see, our middleware is so flexible, right? We have all these integrations. We can leverage the same integration in a different way based on the use case, based on the client, based on the prospect, whoever it is. For example, FCL, we handle all their food certificates. So as a middleware, we're receiving all the data from all their suppliers to make sure that all the food certificates are up to date, right? So that's sitting in between FCL and the suppliers and automating that entire food certificate process, replacing an army of people that FCL used to have that were just emailing, receiving attachments and trying to file them and so on. Now it's all automated through our middleware. Comparing that, let's say, to that project you mentioned with Sinasa, that's more of a phytosanitary tracking solution, right? So we have IoT devices on flow meters, bringing in data to our middleware again, and then we're leveraging that flow meter data of all those pesticides, and we can build business rules behind that flow meter data and push ahead, for example, notifications, push ahead, even fines or even certificates that companies have to put together based on the release of pesticides across the country. So once again, we're thinking FCL. We're talking Gulftainer, the world's largest private port operator, our client as well, which us, acting as a middleware for a port is just a perfect positioning for us as well. Whether it's FCL, just a ton of different solutions, such flexibility through our platform. Being a middleware, being that in-between position, just gives us a ton of different options.
For sure, yeah. And it just goes back to the benefits of being an agnostic technology. You're that much more flexible to be applied to so many different use cases because you can adapt to different technologies' needs, right? Yeah, and speaking of Gulftainer, I love that you guys were touching on that, but they're based in the Middle East. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. As we all know, the Middle Eastern region is one of the largest exporters of oil, and right. I was wondering if you guys could speak on any work you guys have been doing there, just because that's such a large market at the moment and one that's constantly being talked about.
To clarify, Gulftainer is one of the largest port management companies, and they do manage a lot of Middle Eastern ports, but they also manage some in the States as well. And so it's not just oil going through. Because of the Suez Canal being where it is, anything coming from Asia that way towards the Mediterranean, for instance, or to the East Coast of the Americas, is going to have to pass through the Suez Canal. And so there's just a lot of, it's not uncommon to go Taiwan to Qatar to Gibraltar, right? Or push on, to the Canaries or on to New York. That's just a common shipping lane.
Okay.
So it's not just oil. I mean, there's cars, there's food, there's a lot of produce, as you know, that comes out of the Middle East. A lot of olive oil, a lot of products.
If I can jump in also with a bit of background on our work with Gulftainer and how it started. A few years ago, Gulftainer decided to do this global competition. They were looking for, innovative new technology and platforms to help streamline their operations. And so this was a global competition. We applied, and 2,000 other companies and startups around the world applied as well. So a lot of competition. And it was quite a involved process. It started with an online application with various questions, and then we did a demo with Gulftainer. And I think there were 4 categories, blockchain and a few other categories. And one day we learned that we were in the top 10 of finalists. And we thought that was amazing. Out of 2,000 companies, we were in the top 10. And I think then there was another round of demos or interviews with Gulftainer. And then finally, we learned that we actually won the blockchain category. And so we were obviously very happy and excited about that. And then since we won that, it then led to a pilot with Gulftainer. Carl on our team and myself had the opportunity to go down to Dubai and see their headquarters and sign an agreement in person, which was great. And then, that's led to a lot of work with them over the past few years.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And
one good comment, Token, as well. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No
just with our, sort of like clients and partnerships that we've talked about, the Marshes, the SAPs, Gulftainer, FCL. One thing I want to point out with all of these, are providing our middleware solution for them, right? But these companies are absolutely perfect for us to grow out our client base as well. We think of them as multipliers. And FCL is connected to hundreds and hundreds of suppliers. These are all companies that have supply chains, right? Gulftainer, huge port operators all around the world, different ports that they operate. They have companies flying through their ports all the time. It gives us all these different connections. We're running webinars with SAP for those, Fortune 500 all use SAP. Same thing with Marsh. All these companies using the world's largest insurance broker is now leveraging our technology and allowing us to have this audience of their clients in order to grow out our client base as well. So when it comes to, the companies we're talking about, it's more so than just these amazing solutions we're providing them. It's really just the beginning of all these solutions to provide to all their networks as well. And that's what gets us so excited about working with the Gulftainers and the SAPs and so on and so forth.
For sure, yeah. The way I kind of see it with what you guys are doing, it's almost like networking in the business world, where it's like when you connect with this one company, it's like it opens the doors to all these other companies that could be leveraging your guys' solution because of the going back to the agnostic aspect, right? And
That's exactly right.
I know we're running a bit tight on time, and we've touched up on the team, the use cases, and the fundamental technologies. I think a great way to kind of wrap up the last part of this would be to talk about what the community is most excited for, the tokenomics and the masternodes, of course. So if one of you guys want to start talking about maybe the masternodes first, and then we could transition into the tokenomics and kind of the utilities of the token, that'd be great.
Mind getting started with that. Why we're so excited about the Masternode system, and we sort of talked about trusting data in supply chain, right? If you think about our positioning as a middleware, right, we do have this centralized aspect to what we do. We're bringing in data from SAP, we're bringing in data from stakeholders. It's all coming in through our platform specifically. Obviously, we're taking every security protocol that we can, putting that in place. But given that something does happen to our system, all this data coming through our system is a little bit vulnerable if something does happen, a bug or some sort of infiltration. What we've created with this Masternode system is a complete in parallel, right? We're not going to use the word trustless, but a way to bring in that data that we're bringing into our centralized middleware in a completely different fashion through those Masternodes allows us to take the data from the ERP that we're also bringing to our platform, but also hashing it through those masternodes, making it completely trusted, where there's no centralized system in between that's receiving the data. It goes right to the masternodes and hashed directly through that Polygon bridge, and then we can really trust that data. So what these validators, what these masternode holders, the actual community members that have staked those tokens in order to validate that data, they're providing us that specific functionality, that ability to trust the data in supply chain, which to me is the most powerful way to use blockchain in the first place. We're actually leveraging technology how it's supposed to be leveraged, and our validators and our masternodes allow us to do so.
The rest of this year and next year, we've got a lot of exciting things that are coming out. We hope to go to full production mode of our masternodes by the end of the year. That's our goal. So our community needs to understand that we only have a couple of nodes left to stake. We're onboarding a couple dozen a day, and it's exciting. We're really committed to having a decentralized ecosystem. So we encourage anyone who wants to get involved to do it now, because they'll be in a great place and good position for when we go to full production MVP.
For sure, yeah. And I personally can't run one here in Canada due to regulations, but I do have some friends that are running masternodes down in Australia, and I've got nothing but good feedback from them, saying the setup process is really simple, and that there is not a heavy expense to run the masternodes, unlike some networks we've seen where the expenses outweigh the potential earnings. But let's switch over to discussion on tokenomics a little bit, because I think that does tie into the masternodes itself because of the 1,800 threshold, right? So just to start off, maybe you guys could kind of discuss on some of the use cases of the MNW token and why it's essential to the middleware platform itself, and then maybe some clients or some potential people that are using the token at the moment for their operations.
I don't mind speaking on that first, guys, as well. Let's get back to the clients we're working with to start with, right? Like an FCL or a Coca-Cola or any of these like huge enterprises, right? It is very difficult. I'll say impossible at this point to say you guys have to leverage this token, hold a wallet, use the token in order to trust your data, and so on and so forth. There is no salesman in the world that can talk to an enterprise like an FCL and explain to them that that's the process, and they're actually going to go ahead and do that. Impossible, right? To make it so we're actually leveraging the technology, this is a back-end process, right? So it doesn't turn into a choice for an FCL or a Coca-Cola or any of these major enterprises. Do we want to leverage the token or not? It's more so about what they're experiencing based on being able to trust the data, the actual technology being leveraged. So they want to leverage a solution that we're implementing for them. And as a consequence of leveraging that solution, on the back end, they're leveraging blockchain technology, right? So it's not the type of thing where they're like, I choose to use blockchain or not. No, it's a part of the built-in solution. And that's more of the back end, IT stack that we're providing them as a part of the total solution, and not necessarily an FCL saying, yeah, we got to top up our MNW wallet. No, that is all back end that we're handling for them. And really, when we think about how these major enterprises are going to leverage blockchain on a mainstream level, it's going to happen when it's a consequence of benefit the company themselves on their balance sheet. And that's what we're experiencing right now with our clients.
For sure, yeah. I can complete. Oh, sorry, Noam. Did you have something to add?
I just wanted to touch upon two related points, I guess, to the Masternode. One is that, we talked previously about our team, having a very senior team with decades of experience in supply chain. I also have to mention our dev team as well. Luckily, we did a great job, I think, hiring some amazing people, and our devs are complete all-stars. So I needed to give a shout out to them. And then secondly, you mentioned the fact that, if you're in Canada or other countries, unfortunately, you're unable to run Masternodes. And we understand that pain. We're in Canada as well. And unfortunately, in the business we're in, the industry we're in, we do have a lot of regulations we need to follow. We don't really have a choice. And, we will continue to follow them as long as we need to until we get a clear thumbs up from the regulatory bodies and our legal that we can proceed. So, if it was up to just Dan and myself, we would open it up to everyone. But we do need to pay close attention to these regulations and follow the best advice from our legal.
100%.
And really in lack of having regulations, right? So Canada and the US, as you know, don't have clear regulations as to, what is an asset class versus a utility, right? And so when we see things like, Ripple and XRP, with their claims being, challenged in court, you have to be very careful as to say what the actual utility is or what the value of it really is. At the end of the day, though, this is what things are going to get sorted out. There will be ink on paper at some point that will have clear regulatory guidelines for the Americans, I would say. And because we're going to have to catch up with the EU and with Singapore and Hong Kong and others that have already moved forward. So put a pin in that conversation until we have some clear on that. But keep it also in mind that we are a very unique project in that we are a traditional privately owned for revenue company, right? And we have revenues, and we have transparency on chain based on our when we go into full production mode, we'll have full transparency, and so that in itself will be able to drive that'll be the transparency that our community wants to see, is that how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of transactions are happening every day. I mean, just to give you an example, FCL or Gulftainer, one document, one shipper can generate, what was it, Dan? Something like 4,000 different transactions, right? Around just one set of documentation, right? And we do how many of those a day? 4,000 a day, 5,000 a day, right? I mean, a lot. That's just one. If you think about a case of a container of artichokes coming from Israel to Vancouver, can you imagine how many transactions are involved there? How much all the IoT data? That IoT data is being captured, every couple of minutes, right? It's burping through different ports and at different satellite GPS locations, and there's just so much data is captured, and that's just one container. And as a container is the size of those things, right? An EO container is absolutely massive. So you've got each and every case within that container itself also has its documentation and everything. So it's an exponential amount of transactions that happen. So that's going to be all very, very transparent once we get out of beta and we're in full production mode. And I think that's when the community is really going to get excited, because they're going to start to see how massive a node ecosystem we're really going to need to keep up, right, with the amount of growth that we have as we bring on enterprise customers and SMEs. And to that point, we're onboarding SMEs at a fast and furious rate. And we have new products coming out that are going to even facilitate that, right? So 5 different modules that will be out of the box, ready to go with a bow on it, that you can evaluate for 30 days, download and get going and start building workflows in less than 30 seconds, right? So that ease of use, the customer experience, the UI, the UX that we're delivering now in a ready to go SaaS solution is going to be a hyper growth for us. And that's what we're really looking forward to at the end of this year and next year.
For sure, yeah.
And quick comment, Token. I know that myself, James, and Noam, we get on these tangents, and we're talking about a billion different things, obviously, because we know that the systems we're building are being used by these awesome clients, right? Your initial question, which I'm sure a lot of the communities, looking for that, the specs around the Masternodes, minimum 1,800 MNW tokens you have to hold. And during this beta phase, this beta test phase, you're getting 18% per year on those tokens as well. So it's really an amazing deal, for that specifically. But regardless of that, the work we're putting into it is all on the other side, supporting, the whole reason that the solution exists. We're not just building technology. We're building technology to be used by our specific clients and for clients as we onboard. So it is very exciting. And I know that, that the 1,800 and 18% is a lot of the reason a lot of people would join that validator network. But from my perspective, it's more so why we have that validator network in the first place, to support these amazing clients and these transactions for these port operators and food suppliers and all these, for these amazing companies that are actually making the world progress on an economic level. It's quite exciting for mine.
For sure, yeah. I love that James touched up on the whole regulations thing, and we talked about this before I hit the record button, but just I want to say it again, major props to you guys for actually, complying with regulations. As much as it sucks, not being able to run a node here in Canada between the 3 of us. In the long term, I think it's going to pay off because of, actually complying to those rules. But for now, we'll have to wait through it. And just a little bit to wrap up the conversation. If you guys could each share just, one thing you guys are most excited for just about everything happening in Morpheus Network, that'd be awesome. I think you guys have all shared some really valuable information between the 3 of you, but if you had to, sum up the next 365 days of what you're most excited for to come to Morpheus Network.
I don't mind going first, if you guys don't mind. From the audience's perspective, this might be a little bit boring, but I'm working with the team on a day-to-day basis. What I'm so excited about is the new guys we brought on: James Tolan, David Lanuski, Travis Armand. These guys are filling the seats on our bus. What's going to happen over the next 365 days? We're going to fill up all the seats on our bus. Everyone's going to know exactly their position. Anytime a prospect comes in, anytime any sort of new data comes in, we know exactly where to route it. That makes my life, Noam's life, a whole lot easier. I love working with these people that we brought onto the team. James, don't get a big head on this, but love working with you as well, of course. And that's what I'm most excited about, is just working with the team. Obviously, continually growing the company, signing clients, partners, and presentations, and on traveling. All that stuff is going to be amazing. But just working with the team for me over the next 365. Going to be awesome.
Awesome. No?
Yeah, if I can jump in. Yeah, I was going to mention team as well, but Dan took that one. But a close second, I think, is that, this year, one thing we've spent a lot of time and focus on is our internal processes. And again, that may not be so exciting for the community, but, I think overall, we've always had great internal organization and processes, but this year, for the first time, we've actually documented them into what we call a playbook. So we have quite a comprehensive playbook that goes through our entire process, from sales to project management to customer success to communication to absolutely everything. And that's something I'm really excited about, because I do strongly believe, and I think we all do at the company, that the more organized and professional we are internally, the more success we have externally with, business and clients and so forth. Also, shout out to James. James has been great with a lot of that documentation. He's been great getting things like OKRs in place. Sorry, my watch. So yeah, shout out to James as well.
Thank you very much.
James, Noam, Dan, this was an amazing experience, and I've been researching you guys for well over a year now. So to finally get that reciprocal feedback and actually say something and hear something back from you guys, I'm still trying to process that in my head right now. So thank you to you three for coming on, and I think we touched on a lot of good points, and there's so much more that we could have still talked about. So maybe you guys come on for a second appearance sometime in the near future when Masternodes are in full production and there's more news to share.
100%, Jeffrey. We're definitely going to do that. Round 2 is going to be down the line, I'm sure. We're going to do this conversation as well. Sorry that myself, Noam, and James sometimes hijack the conversation, have our own little conversations in there, but I think we got out a ton of information for your viewers. So really enjoyed it, and thank you for being there as a great interview for us as well.
For sure, thank you.
So there you guys have it. First interview with Morpheus Network in the books. I honestly had such a great time discussing with the team and just overall further learning more about everything they're doing in all parts of the supply chain. The team is nothing short of amazing, from how they do business all the way down to just being some laid back and great people. I'm already excited to get ready for round 2 of our discussion in the near future. But for now, that's all I've got for you guys today. As always, be sure to stay safe and keep learning. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.